What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Brand Partial Show. So, I know these games are going to come up today, but Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, some big games today. It's going to be exciting. USC, Utah, UCLA, Stanford. I think UCLA, Stanford could be interesting. I think that could be a game where I think UCLA, could be a game where Stanford upsets UCLA. Stanford riding high with a lot of confidence, especially with that victory over Colorado. I think that was a game where that could really propel Stanford to get multiple wins this season. I think UCLA is a good, solid team. I think they've been a little up and down, but they do have some talent, though. Dante Moore, Latu defensively. Stanford, a good, solid team, sitting at 4-2, ranked 25th. Yeah, Michigan State will be interesting. Interesting in the sense that it's a game this year where potentially Michigan could really just blow out Michigan State. So we will see kind of how that goes down. That's going to be an NBC primetime tonight. That game probably should not be a primetime game. I kind of like when Michigan State was earlier in the day at noon. But yeah. The last 2 years they've played that game in primetime. So yeah, we'll see LSU versus Army. LSU a chance to build off some momentum they've built recently, including back-to-back wins against Auburn and Missouri. So LSU a chance to get another win and continue to build up their resume. Currently ranked 19th, so a win there. Another confidence builder as they get closer to finishing. If they beat Army, they get closer to going back into SEC play, playing Alabama and Florida. USC, Utah today. Utah, a good solid team with just one loss. USC favored by 7. I thought that was a little bit maybe too high. I think USC probably wins. I think this is a game where, even though Utah, I think probably will be a popular pick to cover and win in Las Vegas just because they did. They beat USC last year twice. I know last year is the past, but I think Utah just matches up well against USC, but I think USC is just going to be hungry after that recent loss to Notre Dame, so I think USC does get it done. I think Utah probably does cover, so I think I'm going to pick USC by probably 3 or 4. I think Utah covers, but I think USC wins this game. Duke, Florida State. So Duke, Florida State will be a fascinating game. I think that it's interesting that the spread on that game is 14 points. I think Duke does cover in this game. I think I would put Florida State on potential upset alert. I think Florida State is the better football team. They're the more talented team. I think they are the better coach team, but you kind of get the feel like Florida State is just going to stumble. They haven't looked dominant enough, in my opinion, for them to continue to roll and run the table without one loss or having another close call. So I think today's another close call, but I do think Florida State comes out victorious, but I do think Duke covers in this game. But yeah, Penn State, Ohio State is the most fascinating game because Ohio State should win this game just based off of, the trends of the last couple of years. Ohio State probably is the more talented team, even though Penn State is really improved. They're really playing high-level football, especially offensively with Drew Aller at quarterback, and they have some talent. One of the best offensive tackles in the country. A pretty good defense. A coach that's proven he can win some games and recruit. So Penn State, this is Penn State. Not as much in recent years, but years ago, really showed that they could match up and upset Ohio State. So an opportunity to, Penn State, if you remember, Penn State was undefeated. They were a top 10 team last year, and then they ran into Michigan, who obliterated them. So Penn State has been in this similar situation, and they have an opportunity to show people that they are for real. And they have an opportunity to really get that win that really shows people, that gets people believing in Penn State. James Franklin gets people believing in this 2023 version of Penn State, and not like, as if they lose, a lot of people will be talking about, it's kind of same old from Penn State. It's just Penn State from 21 and 22 that kind of had us fooled early on to thinking they were an elite team, and they really not were. Alabama, Tennessee. Now the initial reaction is Alabama's going to win. They should be hungry, especially the way what happened last year, Tennessee getting the upset. But I think that Tennessee, I think that Alabama, the way they have not been able to utterly dominate people this season, I think this game could be closer than people think. I think Alabama probably wins by 10 to 14 points, but I do think Tennessee is competitive, and I think they have a lot of confidence, especially that they had built last year when they got the upset win. So, yeah, I'm going to take Alabama to win by 10, but I think Tennessee competes in this game and has opportunities to stay in this ball game and get a win. Yeah, so we talked about Oklahoma, and Oklahoma they really have done a lot of the things they've needed to do to really get back on track and be successful this year. I think that the way their defense has improved, I think, is outstanding. Their defense has really improved and taken exactly the steps they needed to. And they did a really good job in the transfer portal of picking up guys that can really contribute in a really nice way for this team. But I think the worry was with Oklahoma. I think year one under Brent Venables, you're thinking, okay, this guy is track record is defense. He was the defensive coordinator here years prior, and he had a lot of success at Clemson, being touted the best defensive coordinator in football. I think a lot of people were thinking that, okay, he's going to come in, and Oklahoma, if there is any struggle in year one, it's going to be offensively, adjusting to a new quarterback, adjusting to new offensive linemen, just a lot of new skill players and new offensive players. I think that was the thinking, that Oklahoma was going to, be strong defensively right away, but the offense was maybe lagging behind. But it turned out to be a little bit of the opposite. The defense really struggled at times, and the offense was a little up or down, but for the most part, it was pretty strong overall. But now the offense is more consistent. Dylan Gabriel proving that he can stay healthy this year and he can play at a high level. Their weapons have improved. I think the offensive line has played better, and then the defense has just gotten a whole lot better that has really complemented the offense and really had them play at a high level. So, yeah, a lot of people really buying Oklahoma. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say I'm all in on Oklahoma. I think this is a playoff team, and I think Oklahoma is the team that will win the Big 12 Conference. I know Texas is still strong. Texas plays Houston today. They should get a win. Texas, a really strong team this year. I just don't think. I think it's one of those years where I think both are really good, but that edge and that the Red River rivalry, if you remember, the winner of that game really, I think, takes control. Not always, but I think the winner of that game really takes control of their season and goes on to win the Big 12 Conference. So I think Oklahoma winning that game has really propelled them into a spot, into the driver's seat, where they're just going to continue to cruise, pick up wins, and win the Big 12 and have an opportunity to get to the playoff. But yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by Oklahoma and Washington. I think those are two teams that America's really going to be excited to see in the playoffs. They're just, Oklahoma's been here before, but at this point, it's been a few years since they've been in the playoffs. They've not been in the playoffs since 2019, even though they made it in 15. it's 15, 17, 18, 19, even though Oklahoma's made it several years now, it has been a few years since they have made it. So yeah, I think a lot of people will be excited to see how this 2023 version of Oklahoma matches up with other programs. So I think that is what's going to be fun to watch, how Oklahoma, if they do get in the playoffs, how they do match up now under Brent Venables, a guy who coached at Clemson, a program similarly built to the SEC team, how they would match up against an SEC team or one of the top teams in the Big Ten, whether that be Michigan, Ohio State, or Washington. So, yeah, I guess the bottom line, how Oklahoma would match up against Michigan, Ohio State, or one of the top teams in the SEC, I think would be a lot of fun for people to watch, and they would answer a lot of questions as far as this Oklahoma football program and their team this year, coached under Brent Venables and led by Dylan Gabriel, a guy who a big performance today and a big performances the rest of the season, has a chance to really show people a lot of what he's made of. So yeah, excited. Oklahoma plays UCF today. Heavy favorites. This is a game where I'd really like to see Oklahoma just put the pedal to the metal, score a lot of points on UCF, and really get a strong win and not necessarily make a big statement, but show people that the Texas game was not that Texas win was not just a one big win. It was a win, a stepping stone, where we're just going to be strong the rest of the season, and we are now not necessarily on cruise control, but kind of another cruising a little bit, but taking another step where we can cruise, but be cruise in the sense where we are dominant, and we do show people why we are the best team in the Big 12. So Oklahoma, a lot of things going strong for them at this point in the season. A lot of people there's a lot of hype of top 5 team in the nation. We'll see how they perform at noon today. But yeah, Oklahoma Sooners. I know you guys liked. So I had the take about Brent Venables and turning this thing around. So I know you guys are excited about the Oklahoma fans. Obviously excited about the direction of the program, and I am as well. So credit where credit's due to Oklahoma football's success this season. So yeah, we'll talk about Florida State. I guess there's not a whole lot to say about Florida State that I haven't already said, but Florida State just doing a tremendous job of finding high-level success offensively, playing well defensively. I think this is a roster where Mike Norvell could really do something special. And I know that sounds obvious, but to me, I know they had a really good record last year, but I don't think there was enough. I think each year Florida State's had pieces, whether it be defensively, some defensively, some offensively. This team as a whole is really kind of the first team that Mike Norvell has had where you can really say there's not a lot of weakness, and we really can just play strong, high-level football as an all-around team. And we have one guy who has really burst onto the scene, and Keon Coleman has really just put so much pressure on opposing defenses in the way he's performing on a consistent basis. So Florida State has multiple key playmakers offensively, a quarterback who's just gotten better and now a veteran at this point. So, and the defense, a couple defensive linemen, Fabian Lovett, Jared Verse, experienced linebackers. So if you look at Florida State, it is a good mix of high level, guys who have experience and played a lot of football, a young coach who is really getting his team to believe, a key playmaking receiver, and then a couple of a talented running back and a talented running back. So a lot of things working in the Florida State Seminoles' favor, and they have an opportunity again today to get a win against a ranked opponent. and show that Mike Norvell in this Florida State team is still hungry, and they are not going to have a letdown, and they are going to really prove to people that they are going to prove to people that they're going to continue to execute at a high level on offense and defense. Yeah, so we'll talk about Michigan State. So Michigan in Michigan State, this is going to be it's always fun if you're from the state of Michigan. You really understand what this game means, even though this year is a year where Michigan is the better team. They should get the win. If you live in the state of Michigan, you understand that this game is a big one, and it's for bragging rights in the state. It's a lot of, especially if you're from southern Michigan, if you're from close to Ann Arbor or East Lansing, you usually have a vested interest in this game, and you really have a strong passion for rooting for Michigan or Michigan State. And yeah, just a lot of people in the state of Michigan watch this game. And yeah, this Michigan, the stronger team, the better team this year, pretty much all. There's really not. There may not be one. There's maybe a couple players from Michigan State that could start on Michigan. Michigan, if you look at each unit, each position group, Michigan is stronger than Michigan State at pretty much every position. And you really can make the case that maybe there's one or two guys from Michigan State that would start on Michigan. But yeah, even though last year there was a gap between these teams, I think you could argue that the gap has gotten even wider this year between Michigan and Michigan State. But what's crazy about Michigan State is there's been some, 2020 was a year Michigan was heavily favored. Michigan State got the upset. But you could argue this year you might have to go back all the way to 2007, the last time there was a gap this wide between Michigan and Michigan State as far as talent and coaching. So yeah, there is a huge gap between these two teams, but Michigan got an opportunity to get a strong win today. I think the case for Michigan State would be, when Michigan, or the case for Michigan State to compete in this game. I think when Michigan is down, or I think when Michigan has expectations really high and they have their sights set on another undefeated season and another Big 10 championship, they're kind of, not that they'll be doing this, but it's kind of this game more becomes, okay, let's just get out of here injury free. Let's get a win and let's move on and start looking ahead to Penn State and Ohio State in the Big 10 championship. So I don't think Michigan at this point, with Michigan State's, with how Michigan State has competed with them in recent years, I don't think Michigan will be overlooking them in this game. But I think that it is kind of the mindset, even if they won't say it, does kind of shift to let's not lose, let's get the win and get out of here, as opposed to let's go out and expect a war. So I guess that would be the case for Michigan State. If Michigan State can go out and play like it is their Super Bowl, it is a complete war. I think that is the case where they could keep this close. But yeah, I think that Michigan State last year was competitive in the first half, but you could argue that was just because they threw everything they had at Michigan to try and hang with them. But yeah, this will be fun in prime time. And if you're a Michigan or Michigan State fan from the state of Michigan, you're rooting for your team with a passion, and I know it's going to be fun. East Lansing is going to be a fun place to be. So yeah, this one, even though Michigan could win heavily, it's just always fun to talk about this game and the passion for this rivalry. But yeah, the SEC, interesting. Georgia right now. The Brock Bowers, it appears Brock Bowers is going to miss some extended time. Hopefully that is it's not a long time because they really need Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers a really good football player, and I think that was that him being out the rest of the season. It sounds like it's an extended period of time is the case for why Georgia probably or why Georgia might not do something special once again this year, just because you had some of the issues in the off season. You had just, I guess if you look at like Georgia, I know they lost. I think losing Stetson Bennett hurt Georgia more than people think because I think once Stetson Bennett, the way he was playing, especially in the second half of last year, I think he stopped. I think the talk of Stetson Bennett, I think it became more so this guy's not a great story anymore. This guy is just, let's just say he is a really good college quarterback now. Is he going to have a tremendous NFL career? I mean, obviously he's only a rookie, but he may not get that opportunity necessarily. But I guess the main point I'm trying to make is, Stetson Bennett, I think, whatever you want to say about him, I think he really boosted this Georgia offense, and I think he was the perfect piece to plug in to really get the most out of this offense and score at a high level consistently, distribute the football, even though he was not slinging the ball necessarily a lot of games for a complete big, utterly, dominant big plays down the field and throwing like absolute bullets. But yeah, Stetson Bennett, a guy that was key to this offense. And you look this year with, some of the guys they lose to the NFL offensively and defensively. I think you look at Brock Bowers was really the guy who were like, because, Brock Bowers is a freshman. When Georgia wins it all, they're like, Brock Bowers is a really good player, but super young, and then he can be dominant. Now he is that dominant guy, and we have to have this guy if we want to do something special. Now, could Georgia win the national title this year without Brock Bowers? Maybe, but also, you feel like without Brock Bowers, that is just that really affects this team. Like last year, I guess Bowers was one of their best players last year, but I don't think he was one of the, it was not necessarily, it wasn't just him that was, that was really putting pressure. It was Bennett, A.D. Mitchell. It was, the offensive line was just so dominant, especially in the run game. Not that it's not really good this year, but I think last year Georgia was just so superior on the offensive line and the defensive line and the defense in a whole that it did not necessarily matter if Brock Bowers was performing. I think, Bowers was making, like if you watch, some games Bowers was making not necessarily was making big plays, but were not really critical big plays, if that makes sense. So I think this year he is the guy that they really need to make the critical big play. And without him, I think that's what's could potentially cost them a win in a big game. But yeah, Brock Bowers, the injury is tough, and yeah, Carson Beck, it just doesn't. Beck is a talented player. I think he's got size. I think he, the short to intermediate range is pretty accurate. But I think that Beck holds them back in the sense that he doesn't. I don't think he's a guy that opposing defenses fear to just drop back and pick you apart and make some off-platform throws and really roll out of the pocket and throw on the run at a high level consistency. I don't think he really puts the pressure on defenses in that way. So I think that's what is giving defenses a little bit more confidence in their ability to defend Georgia this year, even though the running game's still strong and Brock Bowers' talent is dominant at times and the receiving core is really good. I think that's why opposing teams just are not fearing the Georgia offense as compared to the last couple seasons. But yeah, Georgia, a really strong team offensively and defensively. But yeah, a really strong schedule of games. Looking forward to them today, and yeah, it's going to be fun. I always enjoy a Saturday. You get later in October, some bigger conference matchups. It's always really fun. So, Yeah, really looking forward to some of these games coming up today. With that, I think I'm going to wrap with that, guys. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Brant Partial Show. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.